The morning sun poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Pinnacle Innovations headquarters, casting long shadows across the polished marble floors. Elaine Johnson stood at the window of her top-floor office, coffee in hand, looking down at the city that stretched before her. From this height, people looked like tiny dots moving along the sidewalks, each with their own story, their own struggles. Elaine took a deep breath and turned back to her desk, where the latest quarterly reports waited for her review. At 45, she had built Pinnacle from nothing more than an idea sketched on a napkin to a technology giant employing over 2,000 people. The industry respected her. Business magazines featured her. Yet something felt off. The intercom on her desk buzzed. "Ms. Johnson, the board members are ready for you in the conference room." "Thank you, I'll be right there," Elaine replied, straightening her tailored navy suit and checking her reflection in the small mirror she kept in her drawer. Her mother had always told her that as a black woman in business, she would need to be twice as polished, twice as prepared as everyone else. That lesson had served her well. In the conference room, 7 people sat around a large oak table, each with leather portfolios and tablets at the ready. They rose when she entered, offering smiles and handshakes that didn't quite reach their eyes. Elaine had learned to read people over the years. Something was definitely wrong. "Good morning, everyone," she said, taking her seat at the head of the table. "Let's get started." Raj, the head of Human Resources, cleared his throat. "Ms. Johnson, before we begin with the usual agenda, there's something we need to discuss." He slid a folder across the table to her. "We've been tracking employee satisfaction, and the numbers are concerning." Elaine opened the folder and scanned the graphs. Employee satisfaction had dropped by 30% in the last 6 months. Retention rates were down. Anonymous feedback included phrases like toxic environment and elitist culture. "This can't be right," she said, more to herself than anyone else. "We offer competitive salaries, excellent benefits, flexible work arrangements." "With respect," Lisa from marketing interjected, "money and perks aren't everything. There's something happening with the company culture that these numbers aren't fully capturing." Elaine felt a knot forming in her stomach. When had she lost touch with the heart of her own company? She remembered the early days, when she knew every employee by name, when they would all eat lunch together and share ideas freely. Now she barely knew anyone below senior management. "I appreciate everyone bringing this to my attention," Elaine said, closing the folder. "Let's continue with the rest of the agenda, and I'll think about how to address this issue." The meeting proceeded, as usual, but Elaine's mind kept drifting back to those troubling reports. Later that afternoon, she asked her assistant to cancel her appointments for the rest of the day. "Everything okay, Ms. Johnson?" her assistant asked. "Yes, I just need some time to think." Alone in her office, Elaine pulled out the company directory and began flipping through it. So many faces she didn't recognize. So many people working under the banner of her company whom she had never spoken to. She paused at the facilities management section, looking at the cleaning staff roster. These were the people who came in earliest and stayed latest, who saw everything but were often treated as if they were invisible. An idea began to form in her mind. It was unconventional, perhaps even risky, but it might be exactly what she needed. That evening, instead of heading home to her penthouse apartment, Elaine drove to a small cafe across town where she was unlikely to run into anyone from work. She sat in a corner booth, nursing a cup of tea and making notes in a small notebook. "Can I get you anything else?" the server asked, refilling her cup. Elaine looked up and smiled. "No, thank you. Actually, yes. Can I ask you something? Do you like working here?" The server, an older woman with kind eyes, seemed surprised by the question. "Most days, yes. My boss is fair, my co-workers are decent folks." "Why do you ask?" "I'm trying to understand what makes a good workplace," Elaine said. "What matters most to you in a job?" The woman thought for a moment. "Being seen, I suppose. Not just as someone who brings coffee, but as a person with thoughts and feelings. Too many folks look right through you when you're in a service job." Elaine nodded, jotting down notes. "Thank you. That's very helpful." Over the next few days, Elaine met with her most trusted advisors one by one, sharing her plan. Some thought she was crazy. Others worried about legal implications. but her old friend and company lawyer Thomas saw the potential. "It's certainly unorthodox," he said, leaning back in his chair in Elaine's living room. "But if anyone can pull it off, it's you." "I need to see what's really happening," Elaine explained. "Not what people think I want to hear. I built this company to be different, to be better. If we've lost our way, I need to know why and how." Thomas nodded. "So 3 weeks as a cleaning lady? You really think no one will recognize you?" Elaine laughed. "When was the last time you really looked at the person cleaning your office? Really looked at them?" Thomas had the grace to look embarrassed. "Point taken." The next day, Elaine met with Raj from HR again, this time in a quiet corner of a park near the office. "This is unprecedented," he said after she explained her plan. "But I understand why you want to do it. We'll need to be careful about the paperwork. Create a solid cover identity." "I'll need your help keeping this quiet," Elaine said. "Only you, Thomas, and my sister know about this. I want authentic reactions, not performances." "What name will you use?" Raj asked. "Diane Williams," Elaine replied. "Simple, forgettable." In the weeks that followed, Elaine prepared for her undercover mission. She practiced walking differently, speaking with a slight accent different from her own. She bought clothes from thrift stores. Nothing like the designer outfits that filled her closet. She found a simple apartment to rent for the duration, leaving her luxury penthouse behind. Her sister helped her with the physical transformation. They styled her hair differently, added glasses, and practiced applying makeup that would make her look older and more tired than her actual age. "You don't look like a millionaire CEO anymore," her sister said, standing back to assess their work. "But are you sure about this, Elaine? People can be cruel." "That's exactly what I need to find out," Elaine replied, studying her new appearance in the mirror. The woman looking back at her wasn't the polished executive whose face appeared in business magazines. This woman looked ordinary, unremarkable, invisible. The night before her first day as Diane, Elaine couldn't sleep. She paced around the sparsely furnished apartment, second-guessing her decision. What if someone recognized her? What if this whole experiment backfired? But deeper than those fears was a determination to understand what had gone wrong at Pinnacle, to reconnect with the company she had built. Her alarm went off at 4:30 a.m. The cleaning staff arrived before dawn, long before most employees showed up for work. Elaine, dressed in the plain uniform Raj had arranged for her, ate a simple breakfast and drove to the office in an old used car she had purchased for cash. The facilities manager, a gruff man named Pete who reported to someone who ultimately reported to her, barely glanced at her when she arrived. He handed her a clipboard with a checklist of tasks and pointed her toward a supply closet. "You're on floors 10 through 12 today," he said. "Bathrooms, break rooms, offices. Vacuum, dust, trash. Don't disturb anything on desks. Don't talk. To the executives, stay invisible, got it?" Elaine nodded, keeping her eyes down as she had practiced. "Got it," she said quietly. As she pushed her cart of cleaning supplies onto the elevator, a strange feeling washed over her. For the first time in nearly 20 years, she was entering the building she owned not as its leader, but as its servant. The doors closed and the elevator began to rise, carrying her toward a truth she both feared and needed to discover. The Pinnacle innovations she would see through Diane's eyes would be very different from the one she thought she knew. And what she would learn over the next 3 weeks would change everything, for her employees, and for the company itself. Elaine's hands were already aching by 7 a.m. She had cleaned 6 bathrooms and emptied countless trash bins, discovering muscles she never knew existed. The early morning quiet of the building was now giving way to the first wave of employees arriving for work. She kept her head down as people passed, some talking loudly on phones, others clutching coffee cups like lifelines. "Morning," a young man in a wrinkled shirt said as he passed her in the hallway. He was one of the few who had acknowledged her presence at all. "Morning," she replied softly, continuing to push her cart toward the break room on the 10th floor. The break room was a mess. Coffee spills covered the counter, abandoned mugs filled the sink, and someone had left a half-eaten sandwich on the table. Elaine sighed and got to work. wiping down surfaces and wondering why grown adults couldn't clean up after themselves. "It's always like this," a voice behind her said. Elaine turned to find another cleaning woman standing in the doorway. She was older, maybe in her 60s, with gray hair pulled back in a neat bun and tired eyes that had seen too much. "I'm Gloria," the woman said. "You must be the new girl Pete mentioned." "Diane," Elaine replied, remembering her cover name. "And yes, first day." Gloria came in and started helping her with the mess. "They don't see us," she said matter-of-factly. "We're like ghosts in this place, moving things around, making everything nice but invisible." She gestured to the spotless counter she had just wiped down. "Tomorrow, it'll be just as bad. Sometimes I think they make messes on purpose just because they can." Elaine felt a pang in her chest. Was this how her cleaning staff felt every day? Invisible and disrespected? "How long have you worked here?" she asked Gloria. 7 years. "The pay is better than most places, and the health insurance is good. I've got grandkids, so I need that coverage." Gloria emptied the trash bin. "What brought you here?" Elaine had practiced her backstory. "I raised my kids, and now I need to work again. Not many places want to hire someone my age without recent experience." Gloria nodded knowingly. "Well, stick close to me today, I'll show you the ropes." By mid-morning, the offices were bustling with activity. Elaine pushed her cart down a hallway lined with glass-walled offices, careful not to make eye contact with anyone. She was vacuuming an empty conference room when a group of young executives walked in, completely ignoring her presence. "We can use this room," a tall man in an expensive suit said, not even glancing at Elaine. "You? Can you come back later?" he added dismissively, finally acknowledging her existence with a flick of his hand. "Of course," Elaine murmured, unplugging the vacuum and hurrying out. Through the glass, she watched them laughing and joking, pulling out laptops and spreading papers across the table she had just cleaned. In the hallway, she leaned against her cart for a moment, catching her breath. The man who had dismissed her was Ben Reynolds, her vice president of sales. She had hired him personally 3 years ago, impressed by his charisma and track record. Had he always been this dismissive of support staff? "They kicked you out mid-clean, huh?" Gloria appeared, beside her with knowing eyes. "Happens all the time. Come on, we'll do Mr. Patterson's office while he's at lunch." They moved to a corner office with a stunning view of the city. Elaine recognized it as belonging to her chief financial officer, a brilliant man who had been with the company almost from the beginning. "Be careful with his things," Gloria warned. "He once yelled at Louisa for moving his papers when she dusted." Elaine nodded, carefully working around the stacks of documents on the desk. As she emptied the trash bin, she noticed crumpled printouts of the same employee satisfaction report she had seen in the board meeting. Patterson had scrawled notes in the margins, entitled Millennials and Cost-Cutting Opportunity. She felt her stomach tighten. Was this how her executive team viewed employee concerns? As entitlement, or worse, as an excuse to cut costs? The day continued, and Elaine's body ached more with each passing hour. She cleaned up coffee spills, wiped fingerprints off glass walls, and collected forgotten cups from random corners. Most people walked past her, as if she didn't exist. A few muttered thanks without making eye contact. One woman actually bumped into her cart and then glared, as if Elaine had placed it in her path on purpose. By late afternoon, Elaine and Gloria were cleaning the 11th floor offices when they overheard a conversation from the nearby break room. "Did you see the new cleaning lady, the older black woman?" a male voice asked. "The one with the glasses? Yeah, what about her?" another replied. "Nothing, just surprised they're hiring people that old for physical work. She looks like she's about to keel over." Laughter followed, and Elaine felt her face grow hot. Gloria touched her arm gently, shaking her head in warning. "Don't let them get to you," she whispered. "They're not worth it." But the conversation continued, voices growing louder as if they didn't care who heard. She tried to say good morning to James earlier, and he completely ignored her, then told me he doesn't make small talk with the help. More laughter. "Well, James is on his way to a VP position. He doesn't have time for chit-chat with cleaning ladies." Elaine recognized the name. James Whitfield was a rising star in the company, someone her executive team had been grooming for leadership. Was this the kind of leader they were creating? Gloria pulled her away from the break room. Come on, we still have the conference rooms to do before the end of our shift. As they worked side by side, Elaine studied Gloria, noticing the efficiency of her movements despite her age, the careful attention she paid to details most people would never notice. You're really good at this, Elaine said genuinely. Gloria smiled, the first real smile Elaine had seen from her. 30 years of cleaning experience. I could do this job in my sleep. She adjusted a chair to perfectly align with the table. My mother cleaned houses when I was growing up. She used to say, do every job like God is watching, even if no one else is. That's beautiful, Elaine said, thinking about her own mother who had taught her similar values. What did you do before this? Gloria asked as they moved to the next room. Elaine hesitated. I ran a small business, she said, which wasn't entirely a lie. Pinnacle had been small once. Must have been hard to give that up. It was, Elaine admitted. But sometimes you need to step back to see things clearly. Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion in the hallway. A group of men in suits were walking together, laughing loudly. Among them was James Whitfield, the man who had been mentioned in the break room. Excuse us, Gloria said politely as their cart blocked part of the hallway. The men paused, and James looked directly at them for the first time. His gaze lingered on Elaine, and she felt suddenly self-conscious in her plain uniform. You're new, he stated, not as a question. Yes, sir. Started today, Elaine replied, keeping her voice soft and her eyes lowered. Well, a word of advice, he said, his tone condescending. The trash on 12 hasn't been emptied and Mr. Chen is not happy about it. Maybe focus on doing your actual job instead of chatting in the hallway. The men around him snickered and they continued on their way, one of them deliberately bumping the cart as he passed. I emptied all the trash on 12 an hour ago, Gloria said quietly once they were gone. He's just being a jerk. Elaine nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. She had known that going undercover would be difficult, but experiencing this level of disrespect firsthand was jarring. These people worked for her company that she had built on principles of respect and innovation. How had this culture developed right under her nose? By the end of the day, Elaine's back ached, her feet throbbed, and her mind was reeling from everything she had observed. As she clocked out alongside Gloria and the other cleaning staff, she felt a mix of exhaustion and determination. You coming back tomorrow? Gloria asked as they walked to the parking lot. Absolutely, Elaine replied. I'm just getting started. Driving back to her temporary apartment, Elaine replayed the day's events in her mind. The dismissive attitudes, the casual cruelty, the clear hierarchy that had formed, with cleaning staff at the bottom treated as less than human by some. She thought about Gloria, working for 7 years under these conditions and the others like her. She had set out to understand what was happening in her company, and just one day had shown her more than all the reports and surveys ever could. As she parked her car and wearily climbed the stairs to her apartment, Elaine made a promise to herself. This was only the beginning. She would see this through, no matter how difficult it became. Tomorrow would be day 2, and she had a feeling things were about to get even more revealing. By the end of her first week undercover, Elaine had settled into a routine. Her body had adjusted somewhat to the physical demands of the job, though she still collapsed into bed each night, exhausted in ways she had never experienced before. Her hands had developed calluses, and she found herself reaching for pain relievers, more often than not. But the physical toll paled in comparison to the emotional one. Morning, Diane, Gloria called as Elaine arrived for her shift. Ready for another day in paradise? Elaine managed a smile. Gloria's dark humor had become a comfort, a small rebellion against their circumstances. As ready as I'll ever be, she replied, checking the day's assignment sheet. Her heart sank. Looks like I'm on the executive floor today. Gloria winced. Good luck. Those folks up there think they're royalty. She lowered her voice. Especially watch out for that Whitfield guy. He's been on a tear this week, something about a big project. Elaine nodded, remembering the condescending man from her first day. James Whitfield, once a promising hire she had personally approved, now revealed as someone who treated others with shocking disrespect. The executive floor was different from the others. Plush carpeting, real plants, artwork on the walls. Elaine moved quietly through the hallways, aware of the irony that her actual office was just around the corner. She had arranged with Raj to have her office closed for renovations during her undercover time, with her assistant working remotely. As she dusted the conference room, she could hear raised voices from a nearby office. "The design team is saying it can't be done in that time frame," a woman was saying. "Then get a better design team." The male voice was unmistakably James Whitfield's. "The Chen contract is worth millions. I don't care if they have to work around the clock. But the specs they're asking for, are you questioning my judgment, Zoe? Because I can find someone who won't." Elaine paused in her dusting, listening more carefully. The Chen contract was indeed massive, a deal to provide software systems for a major international client. But she hadn't heard about any impossible deadlines or specifications. The office door swung open and a young woman hurried out, her face flushed. She nearly bumped into Elaine. "I'm sorry," she mumbled, then hurried away, wiping quickly at her eyes. James appeared in the doorway, his expensive suit perfectly pressed, his expression cold. He looked at Elaine as if she were an unwelcome stain on the carpet. "What are you doing here?" he demanded. "Cleaning the conference room, sir," Elaine replied, gesturing to her cart. He glanced at the room behind her. "Well, hurry it up. We have a meeting in 20 minutes and I don't want you hovering around." "Yes, sir," Elaine said, keeping her voice even despite the anger bubbling inside her. James turned to go, then stopped. "And while you're at it, my office could use attention. Coffee spilled this morning." "I'll take care of it right away," she said. His office was immaculate except for a small coffee stain on the carpet. As Elaine knelt to clean it, she noticed a presentation open on his computer. Normally, she would have looked away, respecting. Privacy was part of the job, but the title caught her eye. Chen Project, Revised Strategy. Unable to help herself, she glanced at the slides while she worked on the stain. What she saw made her blood run cold. James was proposing cutting significant corners on quality assurance testing to meet the deadline. Even worse, he was planning to use an untested team instead of the experienced developers the contract required, misrepresenting their qualifications in the documentation. If implemented, this strategy would not only compromise the product's quality, but potentially expose Pinnacle to legal action for breach of contract. And he was presenting this today to her executive team without her knowledge. Elaine forced herself to continue cleaning, mind racing. She couldn't reveal herself now. It would compromise her entire mission. But she couldn't let this go forward either. "What are you looking at?" James's voice cracked like a whip from the doorway. Elaine jumped, nearly knocking over her cleaning solution. "Nothing, sir. Just the stain." "You seem very interested in my computer screen for someone cleaning a carpet," he said, walking slowly into the room. "Did Horizon send you, or Chen?" "I don't know what you're talking about," Elaine said truthfully, though her heart was pounding. "I'm just doing my job." James stared at her for a long moment, then smiled without warmth. "Of course you are. How silly of me to think a cleaning lady would understand anything about corporate strategy." The condescension in his voice was like a physical blow. Elaine had built a technology empire from nothing, had negotiated billion-dollar deals across conference tables worldwide, had been named Businesswoman of the Year twice, and this man was speaking to her as if she were incapable of basic comprehension. "Sometimes people understand more than you think," she said before she could stop herself. His eyebrows shot up. "Excuse me?" Elaine immediately regretted her words. "I just meant people have different kinds of knowledge." "Fascinating philosophy," he said sarcastically. "But I don't pay you to think. I pay you to clean." He checked his watch. "And you've spent 15 minutes on one small stain. Is this how you justify your hourly wage?" The injustice of it all, that he thought he paid, her salary, that he believed she was worth less because of her job, made her hands shake. "The stain is set in," she explained, keeping her eyes down. "It takes time to lift it properly." "Well, figure it out faster. And don't touch anything else in here." He grabbed his laptop, closing it firmly. "I'll be back after my meeting. I expect this room to be spotless." After he left, Elaine sat back on her heels, breathing deeply to calm herself. She needed to find a way to stop that presentation without blowing her cover. She finished cleaning the stain, then quickly left the office, pushing her cart toward the executive bathroom where she knew she wouldn't be disturbed. Once inside, she locked the door and pulled out the cheap phone she'd been using as part of her disguise. She sent a text to Raj. "Emergency. James Whitfield presenting fraudulent strategy for Chen contract today. Stop the meeting without revealing my cover." 3 dots appeared immediately, then, "On it." Elaine returned to her cart and continued her rounds, heart still racing. As she was emptying trash bins in the smaller offices, she heard a commotion from the direction of the conference room. "What do you mean it's postponed?" James's voice carried down the hallway. "Everyone is already here." "Direct order from legal," Raj was saying calmly. "They've flagged some compliance issues that need to be addressed before any strategy changes." James swore loudly. "This is ridiculous. We don't have time for more red tape." Several executives filed out of the conference room, looking confused. As they passed where Elaine was working, she kept her head down, pretending to be absorbed in her task. "Who even tipped off legal?" James demanded, still arguing with Raj in the hallway. "Anonymous compliance report," Raj replied smoothly. "You know we take those seriously." The confrontation continued, with James growing increasingly agitated. Elaine worked slowly, eavesdropping while appearing busy. "Is everything okay?" a quiet voice asked. Elaine turned to find the young woman from earlier, Zoe, standing nearby, concern on her face. "Just a disagreement about a meeting," Elaine replied. Zoe glanced toward the arguing men, then back at Elaine. "They don't even realize we can hear everything, do they? They think we're invisible." The simple observation struck Elaine deeply. "Yes," she agreed. "They forget we're here." "I'm Zoe," the young woman said, offering her hand. "Diane," Elaine replied, shaking it. "You're new, right? How are you liking it so far?" The genuine interest took Elaine by surprise. "It's educational," she said honestly. Zoe smiled. "I bet you see all kinds of things. People probably don't even notice you're there." "They don't," Elaine confirmed. "It's like wearing an invisibility cloak." "Well, I notice you," Zoe said. "And I appreciate what you do. This place would fall apart without the cleaning staff." She glanced at her watch. "I should get back to my desk. Nice meeting you, Diane." As Zoe walked away, Elaine felt a small spark of hope. Not everyone in her company had lost sight of basic human decency. That spark was quickly extinguished later that afternoon when she overheard a group of mid-level managers in the break room. "Did you see that old cleaning lady trying to use the coffee machine earlier?" one of them asked, laughing, like she thought she was allowed to take a break with the rest of us. "The black one with the glasses?" "Yeah, someone should tell her to stick to the staff break room in the basement. If she can find it. She seems pretty slow, if you ask me." The laughter that followed was cruel, cutting. Elaine stood frozen outside the door, mop in hand, the words slicing through her like physical blows. What's next? Inviting the janitors? To the company picnic? More laughter. Hey, maybe she's secretly a genius. Maybe she's the next Einstein, just disguised as a cleaning lady. The mockery continued, each comment more hurtful than the last. Elaine had faced discrimination before, as a woman, as a black entrepreneur in a predominantly white male industry, but never this blatant, never this personal. She backed away quietly, not wanting them to know she had heard. As she retreated, down the hallway she bumped into Gloria. One look at Elaine's face and Gloria understood. "Break room?" she asked quietly. Elaine nodded, not trusting herself to speak. "Come on," Gloria said, gently steering her toward the service elevator. "Let's take our lunch break. I know a quiet spot where none of those fools will bother us. As the elevator doors closed, Elaine finally let the tears fall. Gloria patted her shoulder awkwardly. First time's always the hardest, she said. You'll grow thicker skin. How do you stand it? Elaine asked, wiping her eyes. Day after day, Gloria shrugged. Got bills to pay, grandbabies to feed, and anyway, what they think of me doesn't define who I am. She gave Elaine a searching look. Just like what they think of you doesn't define who you are. If only Gloria knew the truth, Elaine thought. But in that moment she realized something important. Her title, her wealth, her achievements, none of it mattered when people looked at her and saw only a cleaning lady. The respect she had thought she'd earned wasn't respect at all if it disappeared the moment she changed her clothes. 2 more weeks, she whispered to herself. 2 more weeks of this experiment, and then things at Pinnacle Innovations were going to change drastically. The beginning of Elaine's second week undercover brought new assignments and new insights. Pete, the facilities manager, had moved her to the engineering floors, levels 6 through 8, where the programmers and developers worked. Different kind of mess down there, he told her gruffly. Those tech types live on energy drinks and takeout. Watch out for sticky keyboards. The engineering floors had a completely different feel from the executive level. The spaces were more open, with desks arranged in clusters rather than closed offices. Whiteboards covered in complex diagrams lined the walls, and the dress code was noticeably more casual, jeans and t-shirts instead of suits and ties. As Elaine moved through the space with her cart, she was surprised when one of the programmers, a young woman with brightly colored hair, actually looked up and smiled at her. Morning, the woman said cheerfully. Good morning, Elaine replied, slightly taken aback by the acknowledgement. You're new, right? I'm Maya. She offered her hand. Elaine hesitated, then shook it. Diane. Nice to meet you, Diane. Coffee machines jammed again, by the way. Some of these geniuses can write code that powers satellites but can't figure out how to clean a coffee filter. Maya rolled her eyes good-naturedly. Elaine smiled despite herself. I'll take a look. Thanks. Oh, and sorry about the mess at my station. Late night, Maya gestured to her desk, which was indeed cluttered with empty cans and food wrappers. No problem, it's my job. Doesn't mean I should make it harder, Maya said, quickly gathering up the worst of the trash. My mom was a housekeeper for hotels. When I was growing up, she'd kill me if she saw how I left this. Elaine felt a rush of warmth toward this young woman who saw her as a person, not just a function. As she moved through the engineering floor, she noticed other small kindnesses. People making eye contact, some saying thank you. One man even apologizing for spilling his drink. It wasn't universal. Plenty still ignored her completely. But the contrast with the executive floor was striking. During her lunch break, Elaine sat with Gloria in their usual spot, a small break room in the basement that most employees didn't know existed. The engineering floors seemed different, Elaine observed. Unwrapping her sandwich, Gloria nodded. Those kids are easier to deal with. Less entitled, most of them, though they're messier for sure. She took a sip of her tea. You get the occasional jerk, but nothing like the suits upstairs. Why do you think that is? Gloria considered the question. A lot of them come from nothing, I guess. Had to work hard to get where they are. And they're makers, you know? They build things, solve problems. Different mindset from the money people. Elaine thought about this. It was true that many of her developers came from diverse backgrounds, had fought their way through education systems that weren't designed for them. Perhaps that shared experience of struggle created more empathy. After lunch, Elaine was cleaning near a large conference room when she overheard raised voices. Through the glass walls, she could see Maya standing in front of a whiteboard facing James Whitfield and several other managers. The approach you're suggesting won't work, Maya was saying firmly. The system architecture can't handle that kind of load without significant redesign. We don't have time for redesign, James snapped. The client wants this feature and they want it now. Then we need to manage their expectations, Maya insisted. I can't magically make the laws of computer science disappear because of a deadline. James's face darkened. Your job isn't to question the requirements. Your job is to implement them. My job is to build functioning software, Maya shot back. What you're asking for will crash under load and compromise user data. I won't put my name on that. The tension in the room was palpable even through the glass. Elaine pretended to clean nearby, watching the confrontation unfold. This attitude is why you're still a mid-level developer after 5 years, James said, coldly. No vision, no ambition, just excuses. Maya's face flushed, but she stood her ground. I'd rather be mid-level forever than push out garbage that fails our users. That's enough. James slammed his hand on the table. I'm reassigning this project. Clean out your desk from the Chen team space. You're back to maintenance work. You can't do that, Maya protested. I designed the core architecture. I just did. James smiled thinly. And I expect full documentation of your work before you leave today. Maya stared at him in disbelief, then gathered her laptop and papers. As she walked out, James called after her. Oh, and Maya, I'll be noting your insubordination in your performance review. Elaine continued cleaning as the meeting dispersed, her mind racing. What she had just witnessed was the exact opposite of the leadership she had tried to build at Pinnacle. James wasn't just cutting corners. He was actively punishing someone for maintaining quality standards. And the Chen project again. First the presentation she'd intercepted, now this. Something was seriously wrong with how that contract was being managed. Later that afternoon, Elaine was emptying trash bins near the break room when she spotted Maya sitting alone, staring at her laptop with red-rimmed eyes. Without thinking, Elaine walked over. Are you okay? Maya looked up, surprised. Not really, but thanks for asking. She tried to smile. Job drama, nothing you need to worry about. Sometimes it helps to talk, Elaine offered, leaning on her cart. Maya hesitated, then shrugged. Why not? Can't get any worse. She took a deep breath. I just got kicked off a major project because I wouldn't agree to implement something that I know will fail. 5 months of work down the drain, and now my career here is probably over too. Because you stood up for quality? Exactly. Maya threw up her hands in frustration. This company used to care about doing things right. Ms. Johnson, our CEO, she built this place on principles. Excellence, integrity, respect, but lately, she shook her head. Lately it feels like all that matters is hitting deadlines and making the next quarter's numbers look good. Elaine felt a pang at hearing her own name, her own values invoked. What happened? New management, I guess. People like James Whitfield who care more about climbing the ladder than building something that lasts. Maya closed her laptop. The thing is, I love this company. Or I used to. I turned down offers from bigger tech firms because I believed in what we were doing here. And now? Now I'm wondering if I made a mistake. Maya looked at Elaine curiously. Sorry to dump all this on you. You're easy to talk to. I've been told I'm a good listener, Elaine said, which was true. For what it's worth, I think standing up for what's right is always brave, even when it costs you. Maya smiled, a real smile this time. Thanks, Diane. That means a lot. As Elaine continued her rounds, she kept thinking about Maya and the Chen project. She needed more information, but how could she get it without revealing herself? The opportunity came unexpectedly the next day. Elaine was cleaning the small conference room on the engineering floor when she noticed someone had left a laptop, open on the table. A sticky note on the keyboard read, "Back in 5, Andy." Glancing around to make sure no one was watching, Elaine quickly looked at the screen. It was open to the project management system, showing the Chen project timeline and team assignments. She scanned it quickly, her suspicions growing stronger. James had indeed reassigned the entire architecture team, replacing experienced developers with junior ones. The quality assurance testing phase had been cut from 4 weeks to 1, and most concerning of all, the security review had been marked as waived executive approval. No one at her level would have approved waiving security review on a project of this magnitude, which meant James was lying, claiming authorizations he didn't have. Just as she was about to step away from the laptop, the door opened. Elaine quickly picked up her dusting cloth, pretending to clean the table. "What are you doing?" A man, presumably Andy, stood in the doorway, coffee in hand, looking suspicious. "Just cleaning, sir," Elaine said, keeping her voice even. "Lots of coffee stains on this table." He walked closer, glancing between her and his laptop. "Were you looking at my computer?" "No, sir," she lied, heart pounding. "Just working around it. I'm careful not to disturb anything." He seemed unconvinced but didn't press the issue. "I need to work in here. Can you come back later?" "Of course." Elaine gathered her supplies and left, breathing a sigh of relief once she was in the hallway. But her mind was troubled. The Chen project was headed for disaster, and James Whitfield was deliberately removing anyone who raised concerns. During her break, Elaine sent another text to Raj. "Need all documentation on Chen project security. Approvals. Something very wrong." His reply came quickly. "Looking into it. Be careful." The rest of the day passed in a blur as Elaine tried to process what she had learned. As she was finishing her shift, Maya appeared by her cart. "Hey, Diane. Some of us are going for drinks after work. Nothing fancy, just unwinding. Want to join?" The invitation caught Elaine off guard. In her 20 years at Pinnacle, no one had ever invited the cleaning staff to after-work social events. "Oh, I don't know." "Come on," Maya insisted. "You've listened to me whine about work. Least I can do is buy you a drink." Against her better judgment, Elaine agreed. She texted Gloria to let her know, then followed Maya to a small bar a few blocks from the office. Inside, a group of engineers had pushed several tables together. They greeted Maya warmly, then looked curiously at Elaine. "Everyone, this is Diane," Maya announced. "She's new on the cleaning staff and officially the only person who keeps our floor from becoming a biohazard." To Elaine's surprise, they made room for her without hesitation. A young man offered her a chair, and someone else asked what she wanted to drink. "Just water for now, thanks," she said, still feeling out of place. The conversation flowed around her, technical talk about projects and code that she actually understood perfectly well, but pretended to find confusing. Gradually, the topic shifted to company gossip. "Did you hear about Maya getting kicked off Chen?" someone asked, nods all around. "Whitfield's going to run that project into the ground," another added. "He's already pushing for release with known bugs. I heard he's cutting security corners too," a quiet woman at the end of the table said. "My friend in InfoSec says they're being blocked from their usual review process." "Why, though?" Maya asked, frustrated. "What's the rush?" "Bonus structure," replied a bearded man nursing a beer. "If the project delivers on time and under budget, the management team gets a massive payout. Like, buy a boat kind of money." Elaine listened intently. She hadn't approved any such bonus structure. This was getting worse by the minute. "The sad thing is," Maya said, looking genuinely distressed, "Ms. Johnson would hate this. This isn't what she built Pinnacle to be." Murmurs of agreement circled the table. "Remember when she used to do those all-hands meetings?" someone said nostalgically. "When she talked about building things that mattered, that helped people?" "Now we just get corporate speak from the executive team," another replied. "Quarterly. Targets and stakeholder value. When was the last time anyone even saw her?" Maya wondered. "She used to walk the floors, talk to everyone. Now she's like a ghost." Elaine felt a lump forming in her throat. These people, her people, missed her. Not just the CEO, but the leader who had inspired them. "You okay, Diane?" Maya asked, noticing her expression. "Yes," Elaine said softly. "Just thinking that your Ms. Johnson is lucky to have people who care so much about her company." Maya smiled. "It's our company too, you know. Or it was supposed to be. That was her big thing, that we were all building it together, from the developers to the..." She stopped, looking embarrassed. "To the cleaning staff?" Elaine finished for her. "Yeah," Maya admitted. "Sorry, I didn't mean..." "It's okay," Elaine assured her. "That sounds like a good way to run a company." As the evening continued, Elaine listened to these young engineers talk about their work, their frustrations, and their hopes. They included her naturally in the conversation, asking about her life. She kept her answers vague but truthful, and treating her with a respect that had been sorely lacking from the executive floor. When she finally said her goodbyes and headed home, Elaine's heart was full of conflicting emotions: anger at what James and others were doing to her company, sadness at how far things had drifted from her vision, but also hope. Hope because people like Maya still believed in what Pinnacle could be. In her small temporary apartment, Elaine made a decision. She had seen enough. The final week of her undercover mission would be about gathering specific evidence. And then, there would be a reckoning. The final week of Elaine's undercover mission had arrived. Each day she gathered more evidence of the troubling changes in her company. She took photos with her phone when no one was looking, documents left carelessly on desks, emails displayed on unattended screens, conversations noted in her small notebook. The picture becoming clearer was deeply disturbing. It wasn't just James Whitfield. A culture of cutting corners, of prioritizing profits over people, had spread through parts of the executive team like a virus. Not everyone was infected. There were still good leaders fighting the good fight, but they were increasingly sidelined. On Wednesday morning, Elaine arrived to find the office abuzz with tension. People huddled in small groups, speaking in hushed tones. She caught fragments as she pushed her cart through the hallways. Entire security team threatened to quit. A client might pull the contract. Whitfield blaming the developers. When she reached the engineering floor, the mood was even darker. Maya sat at her desk, face pale, hands shaking slightly as she typed. "Everything okay?" Elaine asked, stopping to empty the nearby trash bin. Maya glanced around, then lowered her voice. "The Chen project is imploding. There was a test deployment last night, and it failed spectacularly. Data corruption, system crashes, exactly what I warned would happen." She ran a hand through her hair. "And somehow it's becoming our fault. James is saying the engineering team didn't execute properly, that we misunderstood the requirements." "But that's not true," Elaine said, already knowing the answer. "Of course not." Maya's voice rose, then she caught herself and continued more quietly. "He ignored every warning, replaced experienced people with juniors who wouldn't push back, and rushed the timeline. Now he's covering his tracks, deleting emails, rewriting documentation." She looked up at Elaine with tired eyes. "And the worst part? He'll probably get away with it." "Maybe not," Elaine said softly. "What do you mean?" Elaine hesitated. She couldn't reveal her identity yet. "Just, the truth has a way of coming out." As she continued her rounds, Elaine sent a text to Raj. "Need company-wide meeting tomorrow. All staff, no exceptions. Don't tell anyone it's coming." His reply was immediate. "Done, 10 a.m. conference level." That evening, Elaine didn't go back to her temporary apartment. Instead, she went home to her real place for the first time in nearly 3 weeks. Walking into her spacious penthouse felt surreal after the small, sparse rooms she'd been living. She took a long, hot shower, washing away the physical remnants of her disguise, though the experiences of the past weeks remained etched in her mind. She spent hours reviewing the evidence she had collected, organizing her thoughts, preparing for what would come next. Around midnight, she finally went to bed, setting her alarm for 5 a.m. Tomorrow would change everything. In the morning, Elaine, dressed with care, not in the power suit she might have chosen before, but in a simple, elegant outfit that felt authentic to who she really was, who she wanted to be as a leader. She styled her hair back to its usual look and left her glasses behind. At 8 a.m. she called Gloria. "Diane? Everything okay?" Gloria sounded concerned. "Pete was asking where you were." "I'm fine," Elaine said. "Better than fine, actually, but I need you to do something for me. Can you make sure all the cleaning staff comes to the all-hands meeting at 10? "All hands? We're never invited to those." "You are today. Trust me, Gloria. It's important." There was a pause then. "All right, I'll make it happen." At 9:45, Elaine walked into Pinnacle headquarters through the front entrance, not the service entrance she'd been using for weeks. The security guard at the desk did a double take. "Ms. Johnson, welcome back. We weren't told you'd be returning today. It's a surprise," she said with a smile, accepting her executive badge. In the elevator, riding up to the conference level, Elaine felt strangely calm. The anger and disappointment of the past weeks had crystallized into clear resolve. This wasn't just about James Whitfield or the Chen project. It was about recommitting to the vision she had always had for Pinnacle, a company where everyone was valued, where integrity mattered more than quarterly numbers. The conference level was already filling with people when she arrived. The room could hold the entire company, though typically the cleaning and maintenance staff weren't included. Today would be different. Elaine slipped into a small room adjacent to the main stage, where Raj was waiting. "You look different," he said, studying her face. "I am different," she replied simply. At exactly 10 a.m., Raj walked onto the stage. The confused murmur of the crowd quieted. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming on such short notice. Today's meeting is special. I'll let our CEO explain why." He stepped back, and Elaine walked onto the stage. A wave of surprise rippled through the audience. Many hadn't seen her in person for months, given her reduced visibility during the recent restructuring. A change she now recognized had been deliberately engineered by certain executives. "Good morning, Pinnacle," she said into the microphone, her voice strong and clear. "I appreciate you all being here today. Before I begin, I want to make sure everyone is present." She looked toward the back of the room where Gloria stood with the cleaning staff looking confused. "Including our facilities and cleaning teams, please, come to the front. There are seats reserved for you." The confusion in the room grew as Gloria and the others made their way forward. Elaine saw James Whitfield lean over to whisper something to another executive, rolling his eyes. 3 weeks ago, Elaine continued once everyone was seated, I received some troubling reports about our company culture. Rather than rely on filtered information passing up the chain of command, I decided to see for myself what was happening at Pinnacle. So I went undercover. A gasp went through the crowd. Elaine made eye contact with Gloria, whose mouth had fallen open in shock. "For the past 3 weeks, I have worked as a member of our cleaning staff. My name was Diane." She paused, letting the revelation sink in. And what I experienced was both deeply disappointing and profoundly inspiring. On the large screen behind her, photos began to appear. Elaine in her cleaning uniform, pushing her cart, wearing her disguise. I saw executives who couldn't be bothered to learn the names of people who cleaned their offices every day. Another slide, showing James and others walking past her without acknowledgement. I heard cruel jokes and dismissive comments about people based solely on their job titles. More slides documenting specific incidents. The room was dead silent now. Elaine could see James Whitfield's face turning pale. I also saw evidence of serious ethical breaches. New slides appeared, showing the documentation she had gathered about the Chen project. Misrepresentation to clients, falsified qualifications, security protocols ignored, whistleblowers punished. She looked directly at James. "Mr. Whitfield, you are immediately suspended pending a full investigation. Please surrender your badge to security on your way out." 2 security officers appeared at the edge of the stage. James stood up, his face now flushed with anger. "This is absurd. You can't." "I can and I am," Elaine said firmly. "The evidence has already been provided to our legal team and the board. Others involved will be identified and held accountable as well." As James was escorted out, Elaine's tone softened. "But that's not the only reason I called you here today. Because I also saw incredible things during my time as Diane." New images appeared on the screen. Maya standing up for quality in the meeting, the young man who had said good morning on her first day, the engineers who had included her in their after-work gathering. I saw people at every level of this company who still believe in what Pinnacle can be, who treat others with dignity regardless of their position, who refuse to compromise on quality and ethics. Elaine stepped out from behind the podium, moving to the front of the stage. I built this company on a simple idea, that we could create amazing technology while treating people with respect, that we could succeed financially without sacrificing our values. Somewhere along the way, some of us lost sight of that. Today, we begin the process of finding our way back. She outlined a series of immediate changes, a new anonymous ethics reporting system, the cancellation of bonus structures that incentivized cutting corners, a restructuring of the executive team to include more diverse voices. And finally, Elaine said, I'm instituting a new company policy. Every executive, including myself, will spend 1 week each year working in a different role within the company. Customer service, facilities, engineering. Not as observers, but as full participants. Because we cannot lead what we do not understand. The room erupted in applause. Elaine raised her hand for quiet. One last thing. I want to specifically acknowledge someone who showed me extraordinary kindness during these past weeks, who never knew she was talking to the CEO, but treated a cleaning lady with unfailing respect and dignity. She looked directly at Gloria, whose eyes were wide with disbelief. Gloria Washington has worked at Pinnacle for 7 years. She has grandchildren she's putting through college. She's never missed a day of work. And as of today, she's our new Director of Workplace Culture and Inclusion, reporting directly to me. Because Gloria understands better than anyone what respect looks like in practice, not just in corporate mission statements. The applause this time was deafening. Gloria sat frozen in her chair until the people around her urged her to stand. Tears streamed down her face as she made her way to the stage. Elaine embraced her warmly. I'm sorry for the deception, she whispered. Girl, you could have just asked me what was going on, Gloria whispered back, making Elaine laugh. Turning back to the microphone, Elaine addressed the company one final time. The strength of Pinnacle has always been its people, all its people. I lost sight of that for a while. I let myself become isolated in my executive bubble. It won't happen again. She smiled at the sea of faces before her, the engineers and the executives, the maintenance staff, and the marketers, all part of the same community. Now let's get back to work. We have a company to rebuild, and I can't think of a better team to do it with. As the crowd dispersed, buzzing with excitement and shock, Elaine found herself surrounded by a mix of employees from all levels. Maya pushed through, her expression a combination of awe and amusement. So, not actually a cleaning lady, huh? Not. Primarily, Elaine replied with a smile. But I learned a lot from being one. She looked at Maya seriously. You were right about the Chen project. We're going to fix it, the right way this time. And I'd like you to lead the technical team. Maya's eyes widened. Really? Really. Integrity should be rewarded, not punished. As Elaine walked through the building later that day, she noticed people looking at her differently. Not with the distant awe they once had, but with something warmer, more genuine. She had changed in their eyes, and they had changed in hers. The company would face challenges in the days ahead, rebuilding client trust, restructuring teams, healing the culture. But for the first time in a long time, Elaine felt completely certain they were on the right path. She stopped by her old cleaning cart still sitting in the hallway where she had left it that morning. Running her hand along its handle, she smiled at the memory of pushing it through these same halls, invisible then but seeing everything. Sometimes, the most powerful position wasn't at the top of the hierarchy, but wherever you could truly see the truth. And Elaine would never forget what she had seen as the cleaning lady they had laughed at and scorned, never knowing she ran the company.